I thought I would come on here and make a quick video. I find that for me it's easier to say what I'm feeling or thinking versus trying to type it out in so many characters. So what I will say is I finally managed to wash my hair. I had been neglecting myself because I put my dog first. And it hasn't even been 24 hours yet. I was actually sick leading up to her passing. I was starting to get bronchitis and trying to self-treat at home, and then everything just went out the window. The more I realized that she was not really going to bounce back. So what I will say is I think the hardest part of this whole thing has been me personally. I've been through a lot of grief, and so I know how to push it down and let it come in waves. You ride that roller coaster. I still have grief from my parents passing away. So I will say last night it was really hard listening to my family wailing, driving her over there. And then I don't want to think about this part, but when I thought about her crying out, it makes sense now why she would tremble and poop when we would get to the cancer treatments, because she probably cried when they would put her in her veins the medication. Because if you saw in one of the photos I posted, her videos, both of her front paws were shaved. And so my family members are so messed up from hearing her yelping. I feel like there's two reasons I did so well, three I guess, that I did so well with it. And I have been crying throughout the day, but I'm coping better than most people expected because I've already been through deep grief with my parents. And two, I knew she wasn't going to get better when we brought her home almost 2 weeks ago on Friday. They told us that her kidneys were failing, and so I had accepted that, and nobody else had. They were fighting it. And so up until she got that last chemo, she was still my girl, and she was fighting every day. But she was on steroids, and I had to keep telling everybody that's not our girl because she's still very sick, and if you take her off everything you'll see. And that's what happened as we took her off the steroids. That's what happened. And then when we tried to put her back on like they told us we could for the end of her life, she just never really bounced back. And it made me sad because I have a video of her eating filet mignon on her birthday, but she only ate like 4 bites and then she spit it out. So I never knew if it was that her kidneys failing wouldn't let her eat, or if it was like they told us the chemo changed her taste buds. So what was most difficult for me is I didn't just have her alone. So, I also shared power of attorney with someone with my parents, which I learned the hard way. You pick one parent, not both. So we would fight over things and try to figure out what was the best thing for them. And so the only silver lining, both my parents died of brain diseases, and my father was very much concerned about my mother and watching her waste away, and he didn't think he could do it. And then all of a sudden he got sick. They said he had Lewy body dementia. We didn't believe it, but in the end I got an autopsy and he did. So I don't want to go into all the details, but I survived that, and it was horrible. And if they had been alive during COVID, I probably would have been in jail because I would not have been able to not go and see them. So I had a lot of talks with my dog. Her name was Flurry, and she was very special. And so I just told her everything. And I'm a big believer in the afterlife. I asked her to come back, show me a sign. So I'm going to say this. Up until I was about 42, I was terrified of dying. And then I got a reading from Tyler Henry. If you don't know who he is, then Google him. If you do know who he is, then you get this. And I'm not here to make anybody believe anything, and I don't really care. I know what helps me get through life. So I got a reading 2 years ago. A little over 2.5 years ago, and it meant so much to me that I got this tattoo. Rather than, he always wants to leave people better than he finds them, and it says, he left me better than he found me. That's the day he bred me. If you add it up, it's 9. It ended up being the 9th tattoo. And the reason I have these emojis is because when I used to interact and still interact with him on social media, He is one of the kindest souls, but what I knew is my mom was feisty here in the real world. And I knew if she needed to get a message to me, she was going to break through. And there was thousands of people there. He told me things nobody else could know, but what he told me was that I had a health issue, and I really believe that my mom pushed her way through, and she brought my dad so that I wouldn't be suffering. And if you know Tyler's background, then you know he predicted Alan Thicke's death, and I knew that that was a serious thing, and I was in the emergency room 2 weeks later. He told me doctors weren't going to listen. I'd have to find new doctors or push back harder, and then it took 4 more doctors in 8 months, and he was right, and he told me it was a gallbladder. And so what I learned is the more I tuned in, the more I tuned out the world and listened, I was drawn to, out of all these medical terms on a page, overactive gallbladder, and it's called biliary hyperkinesia. That's what I had. And I kept saying, I can't explain it, I know. Just like I predicted, I had surgery back in June. I can't explain why I had a feeling that my dog had something growing in her, or was going to have something growing in her, and she was going to not make it once I got better. And I'm 5 months post-surgery, and I started getting better towards, like, more September. And in the second week of September, that's when they felt everything. So anyway, the point I'm making is I know that she went on somewhere better. And if I'd never had that reading with Tyler, if he didn't show me what's out there, I don't know that I could be coping as well as I am. I'm not in denial. And I know my dog's gone. I know my parents are gone. But I also know that at the end of the day, we are all souls, and we're here for a human experience, an animal experience. We're here on earth for some reason. And I already know I'll be connected with her again. And the love she gave me was incredible because she never left my side the whole time after surgery. I never forgot that about her. I'm just getting emotional because I never knew. People tell you animals will love you like that, and until you experience it, you just don't know. And so I have music on in the background. It makes me emotional, but I feel that music is healing and moving. And so, you know, I know what to look for now, because the night my mom passed away, I missed it. And I was with her for 5 long days, and she didn't pass. I don't think she wanted me there. And the night she died, I said to my dad, if you're with mom and she's at peace with you and you're safe, I want to hear the Macarena. And if you are as old as me, then you know that that song's never really played anymore. People hate it and it's annoying, but I love it. And it came right on the radio, and I had to pull over. I was crying. Almost 3 years ago, I left my job, and I left on the day my dad died. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to make this a new memory instead of it just being the day my dad died. And then because I was having the health issue that Tyler predicted, I had to push back my start date to my dad's birthday, which is like being reborn, a whole new beginning. And I got in the car, and the Macarena was playing, and I burst into tears because I felt like it was my dad's way of saying, you're going to be all right, kid, and you got this. And then not only that, when we were down, I took a trip to go to the beach after surgery, and I really couldn't walk, and I got ahead of myself. And I was really struggling, and I was really depressed, and I was being hard on myself. And then I was in a wheelchair, and all of a sudden I heard the Christmas Macarena, and I had just started listening to it the week before. And I got really emotional halfway through the song, because if I had been 5 minutes later or 5 minutes sooner, I wouldn't have heard it. And that's why I think timing's everything. And I think that was a sign for my loved ones, like, you've got this, you're going to get better, and it's just going to take time. And so anyway, the whole point of this whole video is that not everybody in my family believes, but I know she's going to find her way back, and she's going to send me signs. And there'll never be another dog like her. I don't know if I'll get another dog ever, because this was my first dog. And every night I'd kiss her goodnight, and I'd say, Mommy loves you, and tomorrow we're going to have a great day. I said that every night. And then right at the end of her life, I couldn't promise her that, so I started saying, Mommy loves you, and we're going to try to have a great day. Sorry. And every morning, she would come down before she was really, really sick. I was sleeping on the couch because I was still healing. And she would wake me up every morning and just push me right in the face. I'm gonna miss that part the most. Just those little acts of love. If I could show you guys, I would, but she would walk me to the bathroom every time I had to get up. When I was learning to be able to walk again after the surgery, she would walk with me down the sidewalk and she would just stop every so many feet to look at me like, you're okay. And even when I was crying, when she was not getting better, she was consoling me. So anyway, I'll be okay. It's not even 24 hours yet. I'm trying to protect the rest of my family because I know she's with me. I didn't feel her yet last night, and that made me sad. But I know that there's more. And I know there's a reason that I experienced everything I did. And the other part of it was that Tyler told me things that nobody else could possibly know, things I never told anybody, things that were private. But the fact that he got my medical thing correct, and then as what I noticed is after I got read, I started getting very intuitive into my own body, and I got this last surgery correct. I knew that was the problem, and guess what? I won't go into details, but every doctor was like, that's not going to fix it. It did. Because I knew in my heart and my soul. And doctors can't know everything, and every time I meet with a doctor, I tell them the story about Tyler, and I tell them how I've been able to predict my last other 2 medical issues because I'm very in tune now. But I'll end with this. I was seeing feathers all the time while I was healing, and I thought that meant that she was going to get better, but now I realize that the feathers represented that they were for support, to show me that I was going to be able to get through this without her in my life. So that's it. I just wanted to share this update. It's just easier than trying to type it all out, but grief to me is all the love you have, and it has nowhere to go. And I still think about my parents all the time, and I have moments where I cry. But the reason I got this tattoo, because I always said, ugh, I'll never get a tattoo on my wrist. I have tattoos everywhere. But it's covered underneath of when I wear a watch. But when I feel like I can't go on, when times are tough, I look down at that and I say, you know this stuff is real, and you know there's something out there after we die. And it just reminds me, I've been through a lot of stuff. It's too much to get into. I've had so many health issues, and I'm a survivor, and I fight through all of this. And at the end of the day, I wish I could have saved her, but I couldn't. She had a really long life, 15 years, so that's all. And I really don't care what anybody thinks. This video is just kind of for me to heal, and I don't know if it helps anybody else out there. See, I'm listening right now to Paul, I don't know if I'm saying this right, Kadar, and it's music like this. It makes me think about just everything and my dog, and I just hope she's really happy right now looking down on me. And I'm sure she knew all the love at the end there. I told her everything, and I think she'll find her way back and show me signs. So that's it. That's all I really wanted to say, and it'll just take time. It took me a really long time to be able to look at photos of my parents, but I'm really grateful that I took as many photos and videos as I did of my dog. I took way more than anything in my phone. So, if you have a pet, just hug them tonight, love on them as much as you can. You know, we're not promised tomorrow. But I know at the end of the day, she didn't want to leave us, but her body just didn't have any more fight in her. I just wish they lived longer. So, I'm just going to continue grieving and healing. And luckily, I have a great therapist, and I will meet with her in a few days, and I will get through this just like everything else I've survived. I just take it minute by minute. So for anybody else out there who's hurting and grieving, you're not alone. And you might feel like you're the only person going through this, because that's what I felt like this whole 2 months. It felt like a nightmare. But you're not alone. And there's people looking out for you, and there's people from beyond looking out for our best interests, and our animals look over us when they're gone. So anyway, hope you found some comfort in this. This was not a quick update. This was a 14-minute update. So anyway, I'm gonna go lay down and rest a little bit.